Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the first session. I'm privileged to moderate this first thematic track session on technological innovation, improving access to clean energy solutions. We have invited 6 distinguished speakers from around the world today. My name is Atsuma Sakai, ADB's senior specialist at the Emerging Areas team, which was created 2 years ago during ADB's reorganization. Emerging Areas team works across the region to tackle emerging energy issues like technological innovation. Expanding access to clean energy in rural and remote areas remains a key challenge across Asia and the Pacific. Decentralized solutions such as microgrids, off-grids, solar, and hybrid renewable energy system offer promising alternatives to conventional grid expansion. Yet, affordability, infrastructure gaps, and financing barriers continue to limit their reach. This session will examine how targeted innovation, enabled policies, and strong public-private collaboration can scale up clean energy deployment in underserved communities. Participants will learn hear from the innovators and the practitioners working at the intersection of energy access and community impact. The session will feature cases on retrofitted electric motorcycle offering an energy for greater reliability, and the battery energy storage system or BESS as tools for strengthening grid resilience. It will also explore how decentralized renewable powered cold storage is creating new livelihood opportunities for smallholder farmers. Now I'm excited to listen to their stories. The first speaker is Mr. Vishal Thapa Krabs. He will deliver the speech framing clean energy access, why subsidies still matters. Let me brief his biography. Vishal Taps is Chief Strategy and Impact Officer CLASP. He brings 25 years of global experience working with a wide range of public and private sector partners across energy, climate, energy efficiency, environment, and sustainability. He brings expertise in designing, developing, and implementing multidimensional energy sector projects with governments, development agencies, and private sector entities. Mr. Vishal Tapas holds a master's degree in economics from the University of Maryland and undergraduate degree in economics, mathematics, and political science from Monmouth College. So let me hand over the floor to Mr. Vishal Thapa. So Mr. Vishal Thapa, please.
Yeah, I just pressed this button. Okay, great. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Atsu, thank you very much for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I have about 7-8 minutes to deliver this presentation, right? Oh, there's the time. If we had to find a tagline for this decade, it would probably be that this is the decade of challenges. And what I am about to tell you is a story of one such challenge, focusing about energy access, which Atsu has already provided a brief overview on. As you know, close to 700 odd million people around the world still lack access to basic electricity. In Asia, about 66 million people still without access to electricity. And if you look at areas or populations in the weak grid or in areas that don't have adequate and reliable supplies, that's over 1.5 billion. The new dimension that we're beginning to look at is we got to think of electricity access not just in the binary. whether you have it or not a 0 to 1 solution, but rather in terms of the complexity of supply and the ability to fulfill all of the energy needs. So take this graph, for example, which looks at data from across 15 countries, 3 of them in Asia. The x-axis indicates the level of supply. So starting from the far left, which is essentially what is called tier 0 or absolutely low access, to the maximum supply, which is in effect 24 hours of supply that fully meets electricity needs. And then the y-axis shows you the level of population there is. What you find interesting in here is that the world's moving increasingly away from just looking at access in terms of whether there's electricity or not, but really a mix of the two. Even in places where there is supply, people still don't have their electricity needs fulfilled. And even in places that have no electricity access, there is still a high level of supply that can often be achieved. As you think about the challenges, I think what's interesting is that this electricity access is one of the singular challenges that can be repaired. It would be essentially a disgrace for us if we are not able to address electricity access by the end of this decade. Put that in perspective in terms of what's being spent. If you look at the amount of investments going into electricity, you find that less than 3% could essentially solve all of the access problem. Approximately 340 million people were given access to new connections over the last 10 years. We need to do more in a shorter period of time. Less than 5% of the world's electricity generation today would be sufficient to close the entire access gap. So it's clear that we have the resources, we have the technologies, we have the system, and we have the ability to solve this problem. This is one challenge that would be an absolute disgrace not to solve by the end of the decade. So why are we falling short? The answer is in the continuation of doing what we were doing before. There's a very narrow focus on how we think about electricity access. It's just simply supply, 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 supply. It isn't that people in many parts of the world have been forgotten by their governments. People that live in communities, underserved communities, have been forgotten by the governments. But it is because they're regarded as not being profitable segments to supply. And so if you change that perspective and think about access now as an issue of demand, you suddenly get a new perspective where you have to mix the increase in demand with the expansion in supply. This is what makes the expansion of the grid profitable and sustainable. This is the paradigm shift that we are calling for. This is what's required to change access and really address this problem. You might think that we have 700 million people without access, and the solution is really just as simple as thinking about demand in terms of providing the basis for expansion. And the answer is yes, it's really that simple. So one of the areas that we are proposing is to look at appliances and equipment, the types of appliances we use every day, as the link between energy access and economic viability. These appliances sit at the center of what could potentially be the answer to energy access. CLASP is undertaking a new global research that has been conducted over the last year. We looked at those 7 appliances that are listed on the left. We looked at the gaps. And essentially, appliances are at the center driving 3 things. 1, they provide the basis of energy demand. 2nd, they're what defines social and economic well-being. And 3rd, this is where there's a pathway to cleaner energy use through these energy efficient appliances that could be driven. So it's a critical part of the solution. This research will be released at the New York Climate Week. So this is our first foray here to try to create this interest and mobilize thinking towards this particular idea that efficient appliances still remain inaccessible to many people. And that could be the answer to how you drive energy access. Closing the access gap will have significant benefits. You look at the number of people that it touches, close to 5 billion, creating a huge market for these appliances, inserting significant levels of electricity demand, approximately 1,800 terawatt hours a year, and of course, creating it to a pathway of cleaner energy use because you're on the most efficient appliance use. But none of this is just going to happen because those appliances exist, because those technology exists, and the finance exists. These appliances are hamstrung by 3 sets of market failures. The first is lack of credible policies by governments. It almost creates the impression that governments have forgotten these people, forgotten this community, forgotten these areas. Second is the lack of consumer confidence in this progress. And the third is a very weak market ecosystem. These can be addressed through public investments. So what our research is calling for is approximately at $38 billion in investments to help address these market failures. This is 38 billion over a period of 6 years, so approximately 7-8 billion a year. So that would equate to almost 10% of the investment that is going into supply infrastructure every year. So what we're doing through this research and through this call to action is essentially getting institutions like ADB and other stakeholders to recognize that this continued and singular unitary focus on supply side isn't working. You got to mix it up. You got to bring demand in there. You got to look at also energizing that and allocating some of that for demand creation through efficient appliances could be one pathway to try to resolve the energy access problem. Let me close with this. If it took me 7 minutes or so to explain to you about the interest of 700 million people, I assure you, 5 years is enough time to solve the energy access problem. We need to shift the paradigm. We need to get institutions to stop thinking only about supply and to look also at demand creation as a pathway to energy access. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bishar Thapar. The balancing between the government's subsidy and the private sector engagement is a kind of the not easy issues. But from his stories, we received some of the deep insight on this issue. Let me move on to the next speaker. Next speaker is Ms. Arundita Banjero, World Resource Institute, India. Today, she will deliver a speech on DRE-powered cold storage for rural livelihoods. Dr. Arundita Baranjeo is a senior research specialist in the energy program at WRI India, where she works at the intersection of energy, rural livelihoods, and equitable development. Prior to joining WRI, Ms. Arundita worked with grassroots NGOs and research organizations. Dr. Arundita has a PhD in qualitative project evaluation as an ACIAR John Alwright Fellow from Charles Sturt University, Australia, and a master's and bachelor's in philosophy from Lady Shri Ram College and Miranda House, University of Delhi. Subsequently, she was a postdoctoral research associate with a sustainable food system project led by the University of Cambridge. Let me introduce the Ms. Arundita Banjero, please.
Thank you. Hi. It's tough to follow Bishal's wonderful presentation, but so I'll dig directly into the topic. So why cold storage and why produce agriculture produce in India? So, I mean, as Atsu shared, I'm from WRI India, and I'll be presenting our learnings from India. So, in the year 2020 2021, the proportion of global food loss was at 20%. And in India, it stood at 40%, which is around 18.5 billion US dollars. I mean, just for context. Preservation of freshly harvested horticultural produce is especially a crucial concern, and which is adversely affected by several factors, as we all must be aware, like pests, seasonalities, lack of adequate post-harvesting infrastructure, lack of cold storage facilities, but also sort of lack of connection or interlinkages between the farms and the formal market systems. What happens due to that? So farmers are unable to get remunerative market prices, but also, often a lot of these produce are left to rot. So, for example, in the picture, you can see that, a ton of tomatoes are left to rot on the side of a rural road. These challenges are exacerbated by systemic inequities, context-specific vulnerabilities, and also differential access of farmers, most of who are small and marginal farmers in India. So, so hence storage, hence I'm talking about storage. And traditional storage practices in India include, storing in earthen pots, bamboo structures, storing agricultural produce in pits. And though these are affordable, easy to use, and locally created, but these methods hardly prevent these crops from rodents, moisture, or other diseases. And B, significantly, these methods are used to store grains and not particularly horticulture crops. So thus, cold storages have emerged as, some to address the issues of food loss and distress sales, and sort of improve incomes and nutrition and food security. Well, however, despite programs that have improved farmers' access to cold storage, uh, in select pockets of India, several challenges remain. So first is cold storages in India are largely large capacity, which store single commodities like onions and potatoes. So small scale farmers which produce low quantities of perishable crops with inadequate also infrastructure to make their crops reach these cold storages, which are often located at market gate, is another challenge. Also, these large cold storages, to store in these structures, you need to get into fixed term and long term contracts, which is then not possible for farmers who do not have a regular sort of assurance of a regular supply due to the challenges that we discussed right now. And another primary impediment which we've been also discussing in terms of RE since the morning is this heavy investment that these intensive infrastructure need. So all of these sort of limit the small scale farmers who have low access to credit and who reside in unreliable electricity areas. So it leaves them sort of more vulnerable to food loss challenges. I'm sure delegates in the room will be aware of, as Atsu said, DRE, decentralized or distributed renewable energy, and its potential to power agriculture. So very briefly, DRE systems are systems that generate, store, and distribute energy locally, and has emerged as more affordable and faster ways to power agricultural appliances such as cold storages, but also irrigation pumps and processing equipments in last mile, as we call, or places which are unreliable, which have unreliable electricity and also lower population densities. Out of the many DRE sources like hydro, biomass, and other sources, solar has emerged as a promising low carbon alternative or as a complement to grid infrastructure in these rural areas. So, but despite these, I'll just present some inputs from the field that from our research that currently we find that in India existing business models for small scale solar storage include upfront purchases by farmer collectives, not individual farmers, rental or lease models like pay as you store or cooling as a service. The other thing that we find is cold storages closer to the farm gate have in some locations improved farmers' access and ensured easy utilization. So then, these cold storages run by farmer collectives also offer a more flexible platform for farmers to sort of store when they have their produce and so on. And thus this aggregation consolidation sort of model then enable effective utilization because, it's consolidated the supply and, they can store accordingly. Well, despite this, challenges still persist for solar cold storages, and which we'd like to present to you that maximum utilization we found that it does not really then if it depends on the proximity of these cold storages, whether they are in the farm gate or market gate, but rather depends on maximum utilization of these, which then depends on regular supply by the farmers to these units, which remains a persistent challenge due to several challenges that agriculture is facing in India. Second is, though these are cheaper than the large scale cold storages, they still require a heavy upfront cost, making the farmers dependent on external sources of funding. These installations are fragmented across India. So, there's limited standardization and innovation. And, these complex technologies often tend to fail in difficult geographies like, in remote areas or climate vulnerable areas, as there are limited capacity building or post-installation support available in these areas. And often we see these technologies as a solution. So it's seen as a solution that will solve the food loss problem. But often the market linkage is ignored. So, there you go. And lastly, farmers are still attuned to selling fresh produce and receiving immediate cash in return. So they are still sort of, this underpins little incentive for the farmers to store. Like, why should they store? Why would they store? So, this brings me to the end of the presentation, and I want to leave you with 5 questions that can be taken ahead. One is, when we design these interventions, what is our lever or entry point? Technology can be assumed to change lives and livelihoods, but we cannot assume that technology alone will sort of benefit those who need it the most. Second is, how contextual are our business models and financial strategies? Like, these farmers with lack of, credit support and other support, how are we thinking? Are we doing enough needs assessment? Are we talking to them? Are we encouraging them to participate in the right forums? Third is, that brings me to the third point is, are we intentionally inclusive in selecting who our end users are going to be, which is the value chain, what are the crops that we are selecting, and are we like taking care that are we benefiting again only the large farmers? Fourth is, ongoing technical support is very important for these kind of technologies, because often the service provider, in these remote areas, the service providers, we don't have vendors or service providers. So, once you install it there, what will happen after that? And as Vishal raised the point of efficiency, so, constant innovation is also important to ensure that there is less post-installation, effort or maintenance cost, or easy to use and affordable technologies. And the last is, then are we investing in generating learnings? Because in India, back in India and also in Africa and some places where our partners work, is there are a lot of pilot interventions happening, but to generate learnings from these various pilots and sort of iterate and improve the design, is that really happening? And how much are we all as investors and our funding organizations that are here are sort of systematically investing in generating learnings? So that's my time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Arundita, for your speech. So this is the good example of the private sector-led approach. So always the necessities create some breakthrough, and we look forward to the further study outcome. Next speech is led by Mr. Azil Khan, Eliar, UK. He will make the speech on the retrofitting motorcycles in Pakistan with EV kits. Dr. Azil Khan is the director of Aliera UK, developing climate action, mitigation, and energy vehicle policies, technologies, and advocacy, which has been operating on projects in Pakistan since 2020. He is also director at the Integrated Engineering Center of Excellence and assistant professor at the University of Lahore. Dr. Khan has 15 years of experience in commercial vehicle, EV, and AI systems integration in the UK, EU, and the US, working with the renowned vehicle makers, including Volvo and Mercedes. Mr. Azir holds 2 master's degrees from the University of Hertfordshire, UK, and Cornell University, USA, and a PhD from the University of Geneva. Let me introduce Mr. Azir, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Atsumatsu Sakai, for the wonderful thing. And again, I have to follow 2 very good speeches after this. So very quickly, I'll just explain what the whole narrative and the whole story is. Areas right now, like was mentioned, that we're in Pakistan, we're working in several different areas. And there's several different incentives and funding agencies and everything which are working at the government level or at both academic and private sector levels. So when it comes to technology development, we have SAHAR, which is like a sustainable automotive hybrid electro-retrofitting systems. We do narratives and policy development through the Pakistan EV Oversight Committee. And when talking to the public and explaining what we're trying to do and everything, it's through international expos and everything, which is both in AI and EV. So the retrofitting part is a small part of all the development that we're doing. And we have another speech, which is in 3.1 happening right now. So I'll over here, I'll be talking more about the retrofitting. So this is a very, very quick thing. Other than what our previous 2 speakers, we're more of technology developers that have gone up into trying to help in the policies and in the narrative of why you want EVs to be adopted and everything. So our background is in all sorts of electronics developments and all over the years, starting from 2006 or 2007 when we've developed our first electric motorbike. So this is going to concentrate mainly on the motorcycle industry, because if you can see, in Pakistan itself, there's 24 million motorcycles, which is about 80% of all the vehicles that are running in Pakistan. And if you look at the other top 20 countries, starting from India at 221 million, all the way for Philippines at 7 million and Mexico at 4.8 million, we're talking about 750 million motorbikes that are running. And the reason why that is interesting is that all of them are giving out emissions. So this slide I would like you to keep in your mind, because there are 5 points that are the problem statement, and I'll try to go very, very briefly on all how this whole concept of retrofitting might suit not just Pakistan, but all other countries as well. So the first one is the increasing cost of petrol and high fuel petrol imports. That graph over there is showing how, for example, just in Pakistan from 2021, it started from 100 Pakistani rupees, went all the way up to 330 rupees. So it's very volatile, and all of this is being imported. And like I said, the motorcycle market in Pakistan, which will be the same for all the others, is of those whose transportation costs, the cost of fuel, is more or less 40 to 50% of their complete salary. So this is one of the biggest concerns. The second is emissions and its impact on the climate. So a term which I would like you to remember is that one motorcycle, if it's running for 50 kilometers per day, will emit 0.84 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. So in Pakistan alone, just the motorbikes is about 20 million tons of CO2e per year, which is 70% of all transportation. Pakistan, like other countries and everything, are slow to develop EVs, and it's very expensive to import them. So there's only a handful of developers and things which we need to to ensure that we have a system of our own. There's a lack of charging infrastructure. So say we don't have charging stations, what are we going to do with the motorbikes? And finally, high electric costs due to circular debt is something that was mentioned briefly by Vishal, so we'll talk about that. So the very, very quick answer is, let's use EVs to solve all of this thing. But there's one step further, is the retrofitting. And the case for retrofitting comes that new EV vehicles are zero emissions, but they're not negative emissions. So for if you want to reduce this carbon emissions, like the 20 million in Pakistan and in other places, you're going to have to replace them. So retrofitting becomes a very, very easy way where you actually use a kit to convert one of your petrol running motorbikes into either hybrid or electric. And it does not require new registration, and it's cheaper than buying new EVs in that sense. So the technologies that we say that you can indigenously develop them over there with swappable batteries and range extenders, because you do not take the motor out, you do not need that hard of a infrastructure for that. And the second thing that is developed through that is a complete asset management and a network thing, which is AI optimized, which allows us to embed these things with data loggers, connectivity, so we can find out how these are run and where do we need charging stations to be put for it. So the answers to those 5 points. First, the fuel impact, very quickly. If you do retrofitting, you can see in blue the total cost over 3 years of the thing for somebody running a hybrid system would be 285 rupees, other than 721,000 rupees, which is if they were running it on petrol. So the retrofitting system is about 1/2 to 1/5 cheaper per month. And the important thing for the country is, for example, for Pakistan, is that it saves about 8.31 billion US dollars per year to the public, and about 3.6 billion to the government itself. So that's the first factor. When it comes to emissions, like I said, I've already explained that thing, and Pakistan is trying to reduce its emissions by 30% in 2030, but the EV influx is too less for that thing. So that's why we say that for every vehicle that comes in, you have one petrol engine that is being reduced. The third impact is that it's quick to develop, because it's all developed indigenously, and this is something that other countries in Asia can pick up very quickly. You can do it virtually, and the cost of it is nearly half to a fourth of when buying or importing a new vehicle. Final comes the ecosystem circle depth. So like we said, because it's a system that has range extension, just like hybrids do. So you can bring in these into your country, into everywhere, without requiring a very, very vast ecosystem to support it immediately. And the one thing that has been mentioned over here is the circular debt that Pakistan has, that we have overproduction of energy, but the distribution is the problem. So this is one way we can use where we've put in these charging stations, we can utilize that extra energy for electric vehicles. So just very, very quickly, like right now we're running a pilot of about 300 motorbikes, but a 10,000 motorbike pilot that costs about $4.5 million US would reduce CO2 by 42,000 tons, save fuel imports by 5.5 million tons. Its saving to consumer is about 10.5 million tons. And then the savings on import of new EVs, because they're expensive, is 4.5 million. So, and the social cost of carbon emissions, according to the US EPA 2023, is about 2.71 million. And then you have the carbon market. So the cost of 4.6 million gives all of these savings, and that's what we're trying to explain over here. Finally, this is a very short timeline of how we developed it, but these are the things that we think that we can share with other countries over here in Asia that do not have the infrastructure to create a lot of larger vehicle systems or complete automotive ecosystems. Thank you very much. I hope that was...
Thank you very much, Dr. Aziz. This is really a great story to retrofitting the motorcycle, and I'm pretty much impressed with your comprehensive analysis. And for information, the ADB has a various finance scheme, not only the investment, but we also there support the entrepreneurship through what we call the ADB venture. So if you are interested, please talk to us. Let me move to the next speaker. Next speaker is Mr. Pu Jianjing, Hitachi Energy. He will make the story of the microgrid pathway to energy independence and clean energy for island and remote communities. Mr. Jianjing is a regional sales and market manager for Hitachi Energy Power Conversion Solutions. He has been involved in the development and construction energy storage system across Asia-Pacific region. In his role, Jianjing is responsible for developing new energy storage projects and support customers embark on journey of decarbonization with innovative solutions that can be deployed in off-grid and on-grid applications, as well as identifying new business opportunities for Hitachi Energy's innovative grid stabilizing technology. Let me invite Mr. Jianjing, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time to join our session. And it's a great opportunity and also my pleasure as well to join all the distinguished guests here to deliver my presentation. My name is Jian Jiang. I'm based in Singapore, representing Hitachi Energy battery storage system solution. I'm covering the Southeast Asia market. Well, nowadays we have a lot of renewable initiative. Many of the renewable power getting to the network. People are focused on all those large systems and focus on where the power consumption is centralized in the large city. Well, for me, given my presence in the region as well, we also need to give the attention to the remote community and also all those underserved market. That's all about my presentation. I want to present to you a pathway for many of the remote community on the island, how they are able to achieve the energy independence with the technology we can provide. Just a short introduction on the Hitachi Energy side. The battery storage system has been a very hot topic probably in the past 5 to 10 years. But Hitachi Energy has been in the industry to provide the solution for more than 30 years. And in total, we have a more than 7 gigawatt system has been installed worldwide. And the project has been there for, we have more than 350 projects up running now across the world. So the team has the expertise. We initially start our business from Australia, where we provide a lot of microgrid complex hybrid system to many of the remote community and also the mining side as well. The team definitely have the expertise and have the technology to support Philippines on the journey to embark on the journey of the energy transition. To bring some of the fact, right? So in Philippines, we have more than 7,000 islands across the country there. And even for today, there's still 2.3 million people. They don't have reliable accessibility to the electricity. Right? And also in the meanwhile, many of the energy supplies depends on the importation as well. This creates a lot of concern on energy independence. And also in the meanwhile, if you look into some of the data showing here, in Philippines, actually, we are paying the second highest electricity rate in Southeast Asia. And the data also showing that as well. For those remote community, they are paying 2 to 5 times more than the people living on the mainland. So, and also they are subject to the volatility on the fuel price as well, because all the island running on the diesel, they are subject to the oil price as well. Those create a complication and also create the lot of economic losses as well. Right. So with all those constraints, we have seen that the hybrid solution, the microgrid, in combination of the battery storage system together with renewable resource as the most probably promising technology to really ensure the energy accessibility and the reliability to those island and remote community. Just to give you a bit kind of background on that, our team have done analyze and to look into the scenario, and also look into, it's based on real case project there, and based on the real case study, we are looking into in different scenario, we only run the diesel, or we have the diesel renewable running together and plugging with the BESS, and then we are trying to push a bit high penetration rate of the renewable. What are the, let's say, the economic analyzed data, and how we can make a decision with all the information. So you can challenge me on some of the assumptions we made here, right? But it's based on the project we are doing in Europe. You can challenge me on some of the data. You can challenge me on the price, the assumption. You can challenge me on the discount rate. I put it there, but it gives you a framework, a pathway to look into your case. For different country, for different location, you will look into different data. You have a different scenario you need to look into. But at least from our side, I want to bring up this case to inspire and to raise the attention. At least we look into this kind of aspect. We are looking into 4 different scenarios. The first scenario we are looking into, as of now, the island and the remote community is running on the diesel-only basis. We assume on this island they have roughly 11 megawatt installed consumption. The peak can go up to 50. So each of the genset can provide a 2 megawatt power supply. In daily operation, basically 8 of the genset has to be running, and the 1 will be acting as a spin reserve, a spare genset. It's on, but it's standby. right? We are looking to a second scenario where we are trying to bring the BAS into the picture, and then we will be able to replace and turn off some of the genset. Here in this case, we introduce 4 megawatt of BAS, and we phase out the 2 units of the genset. Only one standby. In that case, we're trying to reduce the diesel consumption. We're trying to optimize the energy mix there. In the meanwhile, the battery will be able to acting as the backup as well, where the diesel is running. On the third scenario, we bring in the solar panel there. We're trying to push for median level in penetration of the PV into the picture. So you have the BAS and also the PV co-located together with the diesel genset. In that case, I can phase out the 4 units of the BAS of the genset, 3 units standby, and the 2 units up running. On the last scenario, which we're trying to push for 100% renewable, that's the goal from our analyze to see if we want to do 100% renewable, what is the cost, how much the sizing we are looking into for the battery, and also the PV as well. So there are some data showing here. So on the basic cases, there's no upfront investment we need to put in there. So basically, there's no renewable penetration. The power quality is disrupted all the time. We can see from the curve, there always a fluctuation on the voltage and also the frequency as well. When we are introduced BAS into the picture, definitely there will be an upfront cost there. We need to put in money for the to improve the to deploy the BAS system into the picture there. But in the meanwhile, that we have seen that across the year, we are looking into a 20 years life cycle, and we can get the payback within 3.8 years. On the median level, on the median renewable scenario, that we will be able to push for 20% of renewable penetration, all in all on a yearly basis. The upfront investment will be huge. Well, there will be a large amount of the upfront cost there, upfront investment as well, but the IRR turns out to be even more than 20%. The payback period is 4.1 year. The saving is coming from 2 sources. One is that the reduce of the diesel consumption, and also in the meanwhile, there's saving on the operation cost as well, because the battery is much easier for maintenance rather than the diesel genset. And on the high renewable scenario, we will be able to push for 35% of the renewable penetration, but during the peak production period for the solar, we can roughly go to 100% renewable in around 2 hours time across the day. You will see the IRR drop a bit because of larger upfront cost of the investment, but still you will be able to make payback within roughly 5 years time. Again, you have a different number to put into the model to do the scenario analyze to see what is the payback and what is the IRR you're looking into. But definitely with the case we are having here, we are be able to prove that microgrid system with the battery and also the PV solar together, it gives a feasible solution to bring the renewable into the picture, ensure the energy independence, and also bring the reliability support of the energy supply to the remote community. Another slide give you another slide showing you the how the BAS system get in the picture, how it can help to improve the quality of the power supply. Before we introduce the BAS, on the grid level, we have seen the maximum frequency deviation around the 0.026 pu, and then load shedding happens on daily basis. Not all the time, but it's on daily basis. But after we introduce the BAS, you can see we reduce the frequency deviation less than 10, by 10 times down to 0.002 pu, and there's no shedding across the day. And the battery solar system is able to respond within 60 milliseconds. With all the right control and the power electronic component, it can respond much faster and much accurate compared to the genset. So I think the load the put on the wrong slide. It's not the original slide I put in there. But okay, that's why. But what I want to do is that I want to bring in a successful story there. 3 years ago, we have done a project together with PLN in Indonesia. We deploy a microgrid system in Nusa Penida, which is a small island close to Bali. And this microgrid system bringing, it's small, but it's fairly complicated because it's the collocated together with the solar. And also it has the different flavor of the technology, including the black star and including the green forming capability as well. But it's a good showcase on the technology, and also it's a good showcase to prove and to the market that this is the feasible solution. We can use the solution to provide the energy accessibility to the underserved market. Without further ado, I will showing the video so you can get more flavor on the project.
Nusa Penida is a small tropical island situated on the southeast from Bali, a tourist destination. It is a home for around 50,000 people. The government has chosen a microgrid project in Nusa Penida to showcase the country's commitment towards the energy transition during the G20 summit in 2022. Operating on an area of 4.5 hectares, the microgrid project is managed by PT Indonesia Power, the power generation subsidiary of the nation's utility. As a global technology leader, Hitachi Energy has been selected to deploy the microgrid project working in consortium with Surya Energi Indotama. Our solutions incorporate solar PV, battery energy storage, and diesel, aiming to reduce 3,200 tons of carbon emissions annually. The microgrid has helped meet the 20% surge in electricity demand during the G20 summit and will continue to support demand from local customers. The project is also part of PLN's de-dieselization program to reduce carbon fuel and accelerate the shift to greener energy. As Indonesia is moving towards carbon neutral, Hitachi Energy is the trusted partner to provide technology solutions for a sustainable energy future.
So again, I think that's that will end my presentation here. I strongly believe that a microgrid system consists of the battery and the PV is the right technology to bring the energy accessibility to the underserved remote community, and especially for Philippines, I do believe this is a strong business case for that kind of application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pu Jianjian, for the evolution of the microgrids. Next speaker is Mr. Jeff Sung Won Lee from INGI Wave Energy System. He will deliver the speech on hybrid microgrids, wave and solar energy in Southeast Asia. Mr. Jeff Sung Won Lee, the Managing Director of INGI Wave Energy System in Scotland, take roles of project developments overall. He has successfully managed various projects. Some of them include EC Horizon 2020 with EDF Energy and United Kingdom Morocco Partnership Project 2018 and 2020. Let me introduce Mr. Jeff Sung Won Lee. So please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I think I'm one of the long-distance traveler for joining this forum. I came from Scotland. My name is Jeff Lee. engine wave energy systems, we harness energy from ocean waves. So before I talk about the microgrid integration topic, let me just briefly mention about the why wave energy and why in wave. In wave is the patented technology. So there are 700 millions living in islands in all of the world. 400 million still relies on diesel gen. They say it is isolated from the main grid. But if you look at the ocean waves, they are surrounded by the rich new energy resource. Ocean waves is actually very dense, consistent, and predictable. It is easy to understand day and night. The big graph is solar energy, and there are intermittent or wind turbines going on. Then, relatively speaking, wave energy is consistent and much less intermittent. So it is definitely complementary. All of the world, if you look at the dark red and yellow and even blue color, you can see near the shoreline. It is huge, rich energy resource. We can cover from 10 kilowatt per meter measurement. So it is actually quite comprehensive, very big potential. Especially Indian Ocean-faced Southeast Asia region is more than 23% of the market share. We believe it is a big potential. When it comes to the ocean waves, most of the technologies go to the deep water because they have to generate utility scale. They face the offshore, which means very difficult, harsh, and extreme weather conditions, as you can see. And also subsea electric cables under the seabed. It costs $3 million per kilometer. And also maintenance cost is most of the same, 3 million. So it is quite costly. On the right-hand side, as you can see, our existing project in South Korea, you can see we don't need any subsea cables at all, only simple rope connected to the grid. It is very easy to install and easy to maintain. Recent 3 years, we are in Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia. Thanks to the Innovate UK British government support, we got 2 significant grant awards. So we started with the Innovate UK British government support, and one of the important factor is the local partnership. The PLN Indonesia Power is our local operational partner for last 3 years. So by end of this year, we're going to establish first Indonesian 125 kilowatt capacity pilot project. When it comes to the commercializing, we will scale up to 1.5 megawatt capacity. Then we can definitely beat all the diesel gen in the local remote islands. That's our ambition, and it is going to happen. This year is very, very important. So when it comes to the microgrid integration case study, we have done, a very small island in actually Vietnam. It is 2 small diesel gen down there and solar PV. So we can show you the difference between solar only on the left-hand side and solar plus wave, solar combined with wave. If you look at the graph, the y-axis is the power and daily changes of the 6 different months. The red color is summertime, and the blue color is a typical day of the winter. The solar energy definitely help during the daytime for sure to provide the huge supply to make much less diesel gen. But at night, still they need to have diesel gen for sure. But on the other hand, on the right-hand side, you can see together with the wave energy, you can definitely face that cover the whole range of the diesel gen, because if you look at the right-hand side, yellow and blue, we can provide much supply. So the power imbalance is actually getting much more settled down. We get a very much positive grid impact. So together with the wave energy, we can say phasing out the diesel gen is much more possible, feasible. But still there are some big red color, which means we need to require some good battery systems as well as the more wave devices. So think about the microgrid to reduce the diesel gen, which means obviously much less cost of the CO2 emission. Also fuel cost will be much reduced. And at the same time, for the local community, for example, our local community in Sumbawa Barat, there is a small village called Tatar. They have corn farming, also coffee near the mountain, near the shoreline. They lack of energy. So we provide energy from the waves, then we can generate, increase the cost of coffee farming. Then we can say wave power driven coffee bean, something like that. So that is our very practical way of doing local business. Maybe you heard about the solar driven honey farm, something like that. So that is something we are practically, strategically, and very much fundamentally changing the local community. That's what we are doing in Indonesia and also many remote islands in Southeast Asia. So in conclusion, we can definitely see from our local data, local power production, we can say it is definitely helping the positive grid impact together with the wave energy wherever there is a shoreline near the shore in the remote island. So we are looking for partnership, especially to complete our demonstration project. It'll be good to have a partnership in this forum. So please discuss with us further. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jefferson Wonley, for your presentation. Today, ADB's emerging area teams, we are also start focusing more on the marine resources because they have the much untapped resources around the countries. Let's move to the last speaker, Dr. Piruntapan Yogata-san, University of Jaffna. He will make the speech on AI-powered autonomous microgrids. Dr. Piruntapan is a lecturer, Department of Computer Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, University of Jaffna, Sri Lanka. Let us invite him to the stage, please.
So good afternoon, everyone. So I'm pleased to present the work we have carried out under the technical assistance of ADB. That's 57003001 Sri Lanka. That's about the artificial intelligence powered microgrid. That's to enable the futuristic and reliable distribution of renewable energy systems. So once we get into this particular project, we had a challenge how this AI can be used in this energy domain. So initially, we had a problem just to make sure the framework, we don't see the existence of any frameworks that supports the requirement that's planned under this particular TA. So I'm tasked from the University of Jaffna team just to make sure to coordinate this implementation of artificial intelligence system. So first of all, we just identify the challenges globally. So we just identified the energy inequality. That remains the major barrier for the global development. So the traditional grid expansion is very slow, and it's expensive and often impractical for the remote or disaster-prone regions. So the microgrid offers decentralized solutions, but current systems heavily relies on the manual control. So that lacks the adaptability to the unique characteristics of the grid and do not ensure the fair and inclusive energy distribution. So we got a motivation just to make sure that's like a challenge. There's a critical need for something autonomous, then that should be intelligent and that should fairly manage the energy. So that system can learn, adapt, coordinate with the energy use of real time across all diverse regions. So we took our objective that the design a system that enables the dynamic AI-driven microgrid capable of self-managing itself and manage the social equity too, at the same time, the secure operations, and that should be applicable in any part of the world. So the vision of this framework is like this AI EMS is a conceptual blueprint for building intelligent microgrids with autonomous agents managing the grid dynamics. The system is designed to operate in islanded or grid-tied modes, adapting its real-time to physical and economical conditions while ensure the equitable energy access. So this system features the agent-based decentralized control, learning-based optimizations, and the fair usage and pricing models. At the same time, it's adaptable to different regions and the regulations. So the AI EMS system, once we started building, we had a challenge that this much of complexity to be equipped into all the regions, then we should be the modular. So we select the modulars in the layer concept. We broke it down. So the first one, we get into the physical layer. There we categorize into two sections. One is the core and the attachments. So based on the word, the core defines the entity that defines the grid. Then the attachment, like you can plug the consumer or the prosumer. So we have attaching capability. So whenever we need, we have the curtailment policies that can be implemented with that. So communication layer, that means we have the usual exchange mechanism, then the information, how we process the information, not to be directly fed into the AI, the usual model operation. We remove it and we just separately maintain the logging mechanism in it. Then we have the intelligence layer. That's the most important thing. There we implement the agents at the same time the control logics. So the control logics and agent is the mixed part. It is not only a single model that control it. It's a whole bunch of agents, whole bunch of logics making this grid functional with the objective. Then the control layer that is totally separated from the AI. It can use to control with the human intervention or the AI's optimization. Then the application layer, it is provide the interface for the users at the same time the operators, just to control it, and users can be in work with the system, whether this is not for the prosumers but also for the consumers. And then business layer, where you can integrate all the possible business making things with the microgrid, whether you sell and the EV charging, then for integrating more PV and the scalable base, customers can put their own in these things. Then especially in the intelligence layer, the EMS integrated with multi-agentic system where the core agents, we say in different agents, like it oversees the grid conditions. It has its own goals, how to set up this grid to be functional. Based on the renewable availability and the consumption pattern, the core will decide what it should do. Then the coordinator will in action that manage the import and export conditions, and it coordinates with the consumer prosumer agents. Those agents tend to be the optimization of the power. Then the ESS agents, that is to ensure the health and efficient energy storage systems. Then for the lifeline market, that agent is to do the market trading and pricing models and all. So once we go for the agent negotiation, that means when we think about the agents, it's very difficult for us to capture the dynamics. It's very difficult. So we put a negotiation mechanism where the agents will negotiate among them and identify, just make sure, yeah, I have this, what you have to give us. So this is powered with the help of LLM, large language models and those. And it enables the real-time and distributed decision-making process. It reduces the centralized bottlenecks, and it's increased the flexibility of all kind of microgrid components. So real-time grid control, as usual, the system can control the load balancing and regulation of voltage and frequencies, and it can do the phase disconnection for lifeline, then it can provide the best charging, discharging facilities, then fault detection, renewable energy integration, and such. So this system is user-centric, and admin portal, it will do the registration and enforcement compliances and integrate the grid setups and control. It will control the agents. At the same time, user access, it will view the energy pricings, participation of things, and the features we provide, the virtual net metering, this energy credits, renewable energy integration transparency, scalable ESS, and the QR-based SCM integrations. So this system ensures the consumers also can be participant in the market operations. So market and social equity pricing, where we introduce a system stress factor as a multiplier that ensures the invert and best load stresses. So based on the load, we factor the power into the pricing. At the same time, the usage will be as a selling point. That means the energy. So this scale the factor from 0.1 to 50. So if someone is trying to misuse a system by purchasing more power out of the best, then they will be penalized by more to pay. At the same time, AIEMS ensure the fair access to energy during the consistent supply through the lifeline market mechanism. So fair usage policy is one of our key goals we just try to achieve. They prioritize the essential uses, maybe the medical, the important entities are the prioritized, and monitors the penalize the misuses, okay? And the block-based bidding that distributes the surplus market and lifeline market. There are two types of markets we provide. Then the unused resource, let's say someone purchases a power, then how, what we have to do when they are not using fully, then there is a block. So we introduce the pricing, it's like energy credits. So we use the credits to reimburse the money what they are giving to the system. Then again, the threat of the system is the cybersecurity and the reliability. So in terms of that domain, we just have the agent-based anomaly detection, and we have the integrated data processing to ensure the data is not deviated from what we have previously. Then for every layer have its own security to ensure the systems does not deviate from the stuff. So currently under this project, we just are going through the market and the application layer, and our information, everything is done. So intelligence layer on progress, and we will definitely show that. So in the conclusion, this AIEM is not just a concept, it's a transformative blueprint for what the world is actually need to be. So it is autonomous, it is equitable, it's scalable, and it's secure, and it's especially the intelligence. Thank you. So there are 4 universities who work in this project: University of Jaffna, University of Moratuwa, Peradeniya, and University of Rugunu. So we are the people from University of Jaffna actually work in this AI project. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Printav. So now, after the presentation, from now until the 3:30, we will open the floor for the Q&A. So first of all, the speakers, please come to the stage. So today we had speeches on the improving access to clean energy solutions. So ranging from the microgrids to the cold storage, and also the retrofitting the motorcycles. And I understand that the audience's interest also varies, because before the session I have posted 2 posts on the app. and we found that there are many interests in the microgrid things. So now is your time to make a question directly to the distinguished guest here. So we welcome any questions or feedback from the audience. Okay, yeah, so Mr. First. So can you briefly tell your name and from your organization, if available, please?
Yeah, thank you for this insightful session. My name is Deepak. I'm from the Alliance for Rural Electrification. My question is for Mr. Pu from Hitachi. So you talked about the island electrification, and this is perfectly in line with the work that we do. I wanted to understand if you have more such projects coming up in the pipeline, or that was one of project that you showed from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, okay.
To answer back to your question, right? So this is just one of the picture, one of the project, and the recent project, and it's in Indonesia, in this region, more relevant and also business case-wise, and many of the economic figures much more close to Philippines, right? So that's why I use this reference. But as I mentioned to you, right? So Hitachi Energy, and we have been in the industry for more than 30 years. Before that, we have been support many of this kind of hybrid and microgrid system in Australia to support the remote community and also mining side. So this is just one of the example. We have quite a number of projects as well out there to show you. And nowadays, the lithium-based technology is the dominant technology because of the push from the EV segment, right? But before the lithium-based technologies dominated the market, before that, we also even use the pump hydro storage, flywheel battery as well, and also even the lead acid battery at that time as well. So there's quite a lot of project on the microgrid system there. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and Mr. Janjan. So is there okay? Yeah, please, gentlemen. So again, please brief your name and your organization, please.
Yes, my name is Marionel Peralta. I head the Philippine Institute of Energy Management Professionals in the Philippines. My question is for Dr. Khan, that your project of motorcycle retrofit is very much applicable to the Philippines. My question is, how critically dependent is that project as far as battery swapping is concerned? Because in the Philippines, there are not so many charging stations yet. Thank you.
For Pakistan also, it was very critical because right now there are just 8 charging stations all over Pakistan. So when it comes to motorcycles, because of the size of the battery pack, it's much more easier for it to be transferable rather than having to stop somewhere and charge for it. So when we started this project in 2019, it was by 2020 we had already determined, and people were saying we want battery swappable systems. Now, one thing which is quite interesting is that in 2019 there was this poll that was taken again in Pakistan by a group, and they claimed that they had 20,000 people who had responded, and I think the question was put, if your motorcycle is running for 50 kilometers and suddenly stops, do you like it or not? And obviously, when phrased that way, everybody said, no, we don't like that. So range anxiety is one of the biggest problems that we've seen and we've heard when it comes to systems like EVs and everything. So when we proposed hybrid systems, that it was more as a range extender. So once your battery runs out, you can start charging while you're running your petrol on it. Not the best scenario, but that's the stopgap. But battery swapping is also one of the largest thing in that, because if you in the numbers, running a petrol motorcycle and a battery motorcycle is the gap is so big that people can actually even afford to get a second battery pack, which they can use DREs. Yeah, so you have distributed renewable energy at home. In Pakistan, we have one of the largest coverage of solar panels nowadays. So you have one battery charging back at home, and you can have the other. And the second thing is that, again, like I said, because of the size of it, we thought of dynamic charging stations where you have like a bus full of batteries which is charged, let's say, with a solar panel system somewhere, and that bus can go around locating the areas where most motorbikes run out of energy. So battery swapping suddenly becomes big for that thing. I hope I answered that. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. Is there any questions? Okay, yeah.
Peter DuPont from Asia Clean Energy Partners, a 20-year survivor of ASIF. Great panel. It's very hard in this really excellent thematic track, which covers energy innovation across the entire energy spectrum. We heard 3 sort of mini-grid focused talks, one on the retrofit, which is amazing, Dr. Khan, really nice. And then Aditya, Aditya, sorry, I pronounced your name wrong. You talked about DRE as a way of powering sustainable agriculture and the cold storage, which in that case is the appliance, right? And the DRE is supplying that appliance, which is providing the cold chain. So I'm going to come back to where we started, Vishal. Maybe because we're covering it across mainly at the mini grid level, and then we didn't sort of get back to the appliances, and we learned about how to develop a business case for mini grids to different types of hybrid systems, wave systems, AI-powered mini grid systems. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how CLASP packages or attempts to sort of make those efficient appliances available that give people comfort and a good life and actually allows them better access to the systems that they have.
Thanks, Peter. Great question. It's interesting. I'm sitting in the middle, and on my right is all the demand side people, and on my left are all the supply side people, and very, very inclusive panel, and pure accident. But yeah, I think appliances can be a great way to sort of push demand, but also make it very profitable for the supply side folks to actually make money. There are a number of ways that we can work, and we work with partners to be able to address the market failures that limit access to people of energy efficient appliances. One way we address it is through the development of standards that enable these products to have a higher quality and achieve a high level of energy efficiency that's embedded within them. So in a way that it can be certified and then make it very profitable for, it provides consumers the information that they need to be able to do it. That's part one. The second way that we do is also addressing the market failures around government policy. Unless government policy is very intentional in moving appliances to these underserved communities, they're unlikely to go there. And so we're working with governments and partners there to be help create policies that enable the movement and the creation of these markets in underserved communities. And then the third part is to look at market ecosystems within which finance is a big player. How do we catalyze finance towards these kind of products and appliances? Most of the time, the lack of appliances or the appliances gap has been attributed to the fact that people can afford it. The word term affordability is sort of tossed around every time somebody doesn't get an appliance. And it's true, there are many people that can't afford appliances that need help to make sure that they can overcome the costs of these requirements. but a lot of time. The challenges that prevent people from getting hold of these appliances are essentially market failures. And if we can address those market failures, we believe we can close that appliance ownership gap and create the framework and the incentives for supply to really increase there. And so we are calling for additional investments of about 6 to 7 billion annually to be able to ensure that these market failures can be achieved. It's through standards, it's through policies, and it's through market ecosystems.
Okay, thank you very much. And we can welcome maybe a couple of questions. Okay, yeah, lady.
Yeah, hello everyone. Nice presentation. Thank you everyone. I'm Pooja Sharma. I'm the country director for Practical Action in Nepal. My question is to Dr. Arundita. So I was thinking of the risks in the cold chain space, the kind of risks in the cold chain space. And I was wondering if you have looked at any insurance products like, index-based insurance or any kind of insurance products to minimize the risks associated in the cold chain space. And that's one thing. And maybe to Bishalji also, have you also thought about any insurance products to minimize the risks in the energy efficiency space? But also to Dr. Arundita, I was thinking about the consumer patterns and trends in India, and I do see nowadays that consumers are embracing seasonal fruits or vegetables and fresh fruits and vegetables. So again, thinking about the cold chain space and this consumer trend. So how do you see the link between these two? Thank you. I hope I'm clear on my question. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Great questions. I'll start with the insurance bit, and Vishal, if you'd like to share. Based on our research in India, a simple answer to that would be that it does not exist. But of course, cold storage, out of the other DRE or solar particularly solutions available in agriculture, cold storage has sort of been the black box, the complex sort of technology, because you change places, you change types of farmers, it doesn't work. So it is a risky business for farmers, for investors, for funders. So yes, it is a very important a sort of input to have an insurance. I cannot unfortunately give you an example of that because none of that exists. The second, Vishal, if you'd like to cover on the insurance question.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Pujaji, for the question. Insurance product we don't have, but a couple of days later, I think on Thursday or something like that, I think one of my colleagues is presenting on cold chain financing, and this issue will come up. So what we looked at is a mechanism through which you do a lease to own model. And what that does is essentially it de-risks for the end user, it de-risks the performance of that system. So as an end user, you don't have to think about, is this system going to work right, not work right? Because the one that's putting in the technology. So this was an approach that ESL piloted. It was quite interesting. And through this mechanism of a lease to own system, it's able to create for the end user a three-year pathway in which the end user can essentially get the system without having to pay for it. But that de-risk, the key element of it is that it de-risks the performance from the ownership by that collective or farmer producer group, and that in effect acts like an insurance without actually being. When it scales, ESL will have to find a third-party insurance agent to be able to cover either the warranty or the performance. But at the scale they're at, that's probably not needed. But if it goes up, then I think they will have to find a third party to insure it. And there should be people around that can do it.
And just a point on that, and that's why a lot of funding for cold storages currently are dependent on grants and external funding, because I mean the people who are ready to take the risks are the ones who are funding, and that's why it's been sporadic, and that's why we don't have robust evidence on what works and sort of what doesn't. And the other point on seasonal, a very valid point. So, then what do you think of cold storage as? Like, how do you conceptualize cold storage, the use of it? Like, do the farmers really need it? But then there are food losses. So another alternative to that could be food processing, agro-processing, that you dry these products and then sell, because the end goal should be increasing the economic viability of any of these solutions, right? So it all then depends on the context that, for example, forget seasonal vegetables that, are in so less quantity, maybe some other commercially viable commercial products, like, some flowers, and, you store them and then, link them to markets. So probably that's a way of looking at, cold storages, and not really just be fixated on seasonal vegetables or fruits. So yeah, I hope that's.
Thank you very much for the intensive discussion. So we now aware that the energy is a now basic infrastructure which would support the multiple sectors. And now I believe that we have now the closing the session. And definitely we have made a great forum start today. So before concluding, please give the big applause to today's speakers. Thank you very much. Thank you.